right. You know what? I wish
So what's special about it?
That even though we live here, that
Oh,
we still
you
have
about
to,
that.
we still have
I like that.
to understand that we're not exactly here because we're still in Gallup, there's still no Gola, so there's another, it's a bit deeper than what you might first think. I'm gonna go from the English, I haven't even.
I know spiritually we're not in Galut,
Yeah.
spiritually, but practically we are.
Of course, as people learn smallness.
Yeah, and unfortunately we experienced the war.
I can't try now.
Oh, right,
Hi.
yeah.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Good morning, everyone.
That's okay.
Working?
I'm trying to connect again because I went on my hotspot. 1 second.
You feel you are still in Galut?
I feel what?
Do you feel you are? Do you feel you are still in Galut?
I'm still in Galut. There is an element of Galut up there, and it's Israel. But, but we're huge steps closer. Where we need to be by being here, be there.
Okay, I'm just gonna stay on my phone because it's gonna mess up my system. I'm already connected to the Zoom and there's people, so I'm just gonna next time. Bezrat Hashem. Okay, how you doing?
I put in a clothes, I put in, there is a stand, where he put his little book, books and it's all, and he just put money in the box and I picked up you.
Yeah, oh, good, good. Take these as well, there's other things here as well.
Ruthie, do you have like a box that this can sit on?
Yeah, sure. Different, because.
You gave me that, you gave me that.
Very nice. What has that been?
So let's get acquainted. Esther, I know, and
Lynn.
Lynn, nice to meet you.
I'm very outspoken.
Good, I see. It's good.
Debbie.
Deborah, nice to meet you.
Deborah, how did you start the ship? English community chat, everything was obvious.
You put it on a whole bunch of chats? Okay.
Is that?
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, that's good work. Okay. So let's just see if we're ready to go online.
I was like, you sent your initial.
Oh, you saw me there?
Yeah.
Oh, where? Which one? I'm one of the books of the Tanakh. Uh-huh. Okay, good. It was a while ago. There's always a lot of people that attend those things. Baruch Hashem. Oh, that's so nice. You're not just outspoken, you're also kind and Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekol nהיה b'dvaro. Okay, so I'm gonna go live on the goodness, and we're gonna begin. Are we ready to start, Ruthie? What do you say? It's up to you.
Yeah.
I'm not in a rush. I can just like be. I have an appointment in Buffalo at 12, so like I'm okay. But I don't know about the people. You need to be somewhere at 12, so we have time. Do you want to wait a little bit and?
It's only 10 past. I think we start.
Ten?
Know that we start on.
Okay, good.
Then people will get the idea.
Can we just say three dealing together?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Beside Hanarim,
I know.
Mimamaki, and Beseder Elyon.
Okay.
Shall we?
Hang on, let me try everybody's thought.
Yudit, we're just on Zoom. We're just waiting for people to collect here. We're gonna say some Pirkei Tehillim to get us going. Okay.
They're gonna. Get this in the back of the.
Imam Hakim is Kuf Lamed.
And I've got them.
Beseter Elyon is Sadi Aleph. And what is the other one?
Macbeth, I think,
Kuf Membet.
I think. I'm not sure.
Let's see. Tzadi Aleph is Yeshiv Beseter.
I think exactly.
And Imam Hakim is Kuf Lamed.
יושב בסדר עליון.
is Tzadi Aleph. That's what I said. And so we're starting.
מתחיל את מהבית קמ"ב.
Okay. And Kuf Lamed is Mimamakim. So we're going to do Kuf Lamed, Tzadi Aleph, and Kuf Membet.
Give
That
people
Lord?
time to find them.
Yes.
Okay, so 130, 91, and 142. Yeah.
Say the.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. The whole cedar.
Esther, where are you from? Where's that accent from?
Mixture.
Of
English, Hebrew, Russian.
Persian. Okay. Farsi. Nice.
I was only 6 years in Persia, but the accent is Karma.
Mix. Okay. The Tehillim we're going to be reading is L'Atzlachat Chayelei Tzva Haganah Yisrael. They should all be successful in their missions and all come home safely. Yeah, and they should be successful. No more korbanot. B'ezrat Hashem, every single one of them should come home safely. All the hostages should also come home safely. Shlemim, nafshi, and in physical health and emotional and spiritual health, in one piece. B'ezrat Hashem, and refuah shalema to everyone who needs a refuah shalema, and chizuk to all the families.
That's not Olbeno.
Yeah. Okay. Shir, how are we going to do this? We're going to say it together.
Maybe you say line and we repeat? Or?
No, say it together.
Okay.
שיר המעלות ממעמקים קראתיך אדוני. אדוני שמעה בקולי, תהיינה אוזניך קשובות לכל תחנוני. אם עוונות תשמור יה, אדוני מי יעמוד? כי עמך הסליחה למען תברא. הביתי אדוני כבתה נפשי, ולדברו הוחלתי. נפשי לאדוני משומרים לבוקר, שומרים לבוקר. יחל ישראל אל אדוני, כי עם אדוני החסד והרבה עמו פדות. והוא יפדה את ישראל מכל עוונותיו. Now Tzadi Aleph, 91. You're all ready? יושב בסתר עליון, בצל שדי יתלונן. אומר לאדוני מחסי ומצודתי אלוהי אפתח בו. כי הוא יצילך מפח יכוש מדבר אבות. בעברתו יסך לך ותחת כנפיו תכסה, צינה וסוחרה מטוב. לא תירא מפחד לילה, מחץ יעוף יומם, מדבר באופל יהלוך, מקצב ישות צהריים. יפול מצדך 1000 ורבבה מימינך, אליך לא ייגש, רק בעיניך תביט, בשילומת רשעים תראה. כי אתה אדוני מחסי עליון שמת מעונך, לא תעונה אליך רעה, ונגע לא יקרא באוהליך. כי מלאכיו יצווה לך לשמורך בכל דרכיך. על כפיים ישאונך, פן תיגוף באפן רגלך. על שתל ופתן תדרוך, תרמוס כפיר ותנין. כי בי חשק ואפלתהו, אסגבהו כי ידע שמי. יקראני ועיניהו עמו אנוכי וצרה. אחלצהו ואכבדהו, אורך ימים אשביעהו, והראהו בישועתי. Now 142, Kuf Membet. You got it? You got it? Kuf Membet? משכיל לדוד, בהיותו במערה תפילה. קולי אל אדוני אזעק, קולי אל אדוני אתחנן. אשפוך לפניו שיחי, צרתי לפניו אגיד. בהתעטף עלי רוחי, ואתה ידעת נתיבתי. באורך זו אהלך, תמנו פח לי. הביט ימין וראה ואין לי מכיר. אבד מנוס ממני אין דורש לנפשי. זעקתי אליך אדוני, אמרתי אתה מחסי חלקי בארץ החיים. הקשיבה אל רינתי, כי דלותי מאוד. הצילני מרודפי, כי ימצאו ממני. הוציאה ממסגר נפשי, להודות את שמך. בי יכתירו צדיקים, תגמול עליי.
לעילוי נשמת חיים בת מנחם מנדל.
Shira should be dedicated to Leilu Nishmat
Chaya bat Menachem Mendel.
Chaya bat Menachem Mendel.
Yeah, grandmother, never knew.
Oh, wow,
When I
okay.
found out today was the outside.
Today's the yahrzeit?
Yeah,
Mamash?
yeah,
Oh, wow, okay, good.
yeah.
Okay, so how many here are familiar with the Sefer? Know what this is about?
I know what it's about, but I never wanted to.
Okay, it's called Emma Banim Smecha. We're basing the whole course on this Sefer. It was written by Rav Teichtel. I think there's a picture of him somewhere here, Rav Teichtel. And he was a Munkach Chassid that lived through the Shoah, and he didn't survive, but he wrote this whole Sefer while in hiding during the Shoah. Now he came from Munkach Chassid. He was a great big Talmid Chacham. And as a Munkach Chassid, as most Chassidim were at that time, they were very anti-Zionist. And they didn't want to have anything to do with the building of Eretz Yisael at that time. And they didn't encourage Aliyah to Eretz Yisael because the builders of the land at that time were non-religious people. And during the Shoah, he asked himself, why is the Shoah happening to us? And from the tzara, we understand what the crime is. The punishment that Hashem sends, that's how we examine what it is, and then we learn what the tikkun should be. So he noticed, what did the Nazis in Machshvam do? Confiscated all of our properties and didn't allow us free migration, free movement. We were locked in that hell pit and not allowed to go out. And he said, if Mina Shemaim, they're not allowing us to leave, even if we want to leave, it means that when we had a chance to leave, we didn't leave. And that was the premise that he was building himself on. And he said, okay, I got from my Rebbes this line of, we don't collaborate with Chil Machalai Shabbos. But as he was sitting through the Holocaust, through the Shoah, suffering what everyone was suffering at that point, he asked, let me examine what the sources say. What do the sources say about Eretz Yisrael and about Yishuv Eretz Yisael? He got it in his mind to search it out, not to rely on his Rebbes, but to actually do a limud from the Beis HaMidrash. Now, saying it's Beis HaMidrash is kind of funny in his situation because he was disconnected from Halas Forum. But he was such a big Talmid Chacham, and he knew everything in his head, that he wrote this whole Sefer, quoting source after source after source, proving the point that actually, what we actually absolutely have to do is return to Eretz Yisrael, Shivat Zion, Kibbutz Galuyot, and that's an essential part of the Geula. And if we forsake that mitzvah, then this is the trouble that happens to the Jewish people. And it's an amazing thing because when he quotes, and he quotes where the source is and word for word, and he's right on. That when people examine the book after him and they say, okay, like, did he get it off by a page? By this? No, he was like, it's all in his head. And sometimes he apologizes. He just says what the source is around the page, and I'm apologize because I don't have the Sefer right in front of me, but he's right back on. Incredible. He called the book Emma Banim Smecha. That's from a Tehillim. We say it's a pasuk that we say in Hallel. Emma Banim Smecha, what do the words mean? Em Habanim Smecha. The mother of sons is happy. Why did he call a book on the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisael as a necessary part of Geula? Em Habanim Smecha. Right. Shabanim Chozrim. And he laments how sad it is that children who had to be disconnected from their mother because of Galus, because of the Gzira, because of Churban Beit HaMikdash, and it wasn't our choice to be kicked out of land. Well, choice, I mean, we didn't follow exactly what the protocol is according to Torah and Mitzvot, so we deserved it. We were forewarned, Sefer Dvarim, according to Moshe Rabbeinu, he kept warning them, you're going to go into the land, I'm not going to be with you, but be careful to keep the laws of this Torah. Be faithful, because otherwise you're going to be kicked off the land. You're going to lose the prize, not the Torah.
Reject you.
The land will reject you. and which means the Torah will go out with you in Galut, but you'll lose the prize. The prize is Eretz Yisrael, because doing Torah in Eretz Yisrael is the ultimate. It is the Geula. Because we don't have Beit HaMikdash, and we don't have the Geula, we don't have Beit HaMikdash, we don't have Mashiach if we're not in Eretz Yisrael. So Eretz Yisrael is encapsulate all of the Jewish ideals of whatever Mashiach means and the Geula for the whole entire world. So remembering the land is key. Now, Ema Banim Smecha means the children are returning back to mommy, to Ima. And how sad it is when the children who were disconnected from Ima and went to live in strange lands and kind of adopted by a stepmother, when they can come back to Ima, to their real mother, they still prefer the stepmother rather than the Ima. And how sad that is for the Ima, and how disgraceful that is to the Ima, and how so gullus that is. Okay. And he said, all the tzarot that befalls the Jewish people in history, if we examine Jewish history, there's always a period of time where we find our place, we build ourselves, we become prosperous, we even contribute to the land that received us. We rise up to the higher echelons of government, of rulership. They seek our advice. There were always Jews giving advice concerning economy, prosperity, even wars. And at a certain point, something happens that the Goyim then turn on the Jews that brought them the prosperity and say, you don't belong here. You either convert or be expelled or die. And Rav Techtele says, why does that happen? Why can't we ever find serenity in Galus? Galus that seem to receive us and we prosper there. And he references it as Kol Dodi Dofek. It's the call of Hashem calling upon us. Hashem is Dofek, he's calling on our door. Because and what's the call? What's the tfikah? The Gzerot Kashot, the bad decrees, to remind us what? You might feel like this is your home because you found a good life to build for yourself, Jewish lives. You build Beitei Midrash and Yeshivot and communities, and you think it's okay, and you forgot that this is not the ideal. So I'm going to remind you that this is not the ideal, that this is not your place.
No, but Sachs,
Yeah.
writes in his latest book about this. He says it's a sibling rivalry. The Jews and the rest of the world sibling rivalry. The anti-Semitism is sibling rivalry.
Well, it's
Yitzchak, Ishmael,
Yaakov and Esau.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It expands on
Yeah,
that.
but that, I mean, yes, that's part of it, but it's not the kivun that I'm taking it. But it's
So-
yes, it's in terms of our approach to our inheritance, and do we honor our inheritance, and do we understand that we have a mission not only for ourselves and for Hashem, but for the rest of the world to be Jews, and it has to happen here. And so there was a period of time that we had to be sent into Galus, Hashem's cheshbonot. But then there comes a time where we have to return and pick up the mission from here. It doesn't happen out there. It happens here in Eretz Yisrael. So this is actually a course that's been, when did I start this? Like, it's already a year, right?
You're into the Sefer?
We're into the Sefer, so we're into the Sefer, but I go very slow. So it's okay. We're only in like the second chapter. I'm going to now bring you up to speed according to my notes. I kind of reviewed what I pulled out the main points. I'm going to share that with you. And then if we have time, we're going to continue where we're actually holding for the people who have been with us from the beginning. Okay. So, all right. Yeah, so there's an English translation of this. Emma Banim Smicha. So what he says is, yeah, actually, I'm going to share with you actually what got him started on this. It's not only the question of why is this happening, like the Shoah, and maybe what does the Torah reveal about why this is happening, but something happened. He came across a letter between the Berditchever Rebbe and the Alter Rebbe, and the first Rebbe of Lubavitch, Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the Balatanya, that's got him thinking in the kivun of Eretz Yisrael. And maybe the answer is our approach to Eretz Yisrael that brought us all these troubles. So if you know anything about the Balatanya, he was imprisoned. And he was imprisoned, he was accused of treachery, of assisting the Ottoman Empire, or whatever was going on at that time, because there were Jews and there was migration of Jews, a small group of Hasidim that found themselves in Eretz Yisrael. The first Yishuvim, the first Aliyot were actually the students of the Vilna Gaon, the students of the Baal Shem Tov, and then there was a group of Chabadskers that were also like people loyal to the Balatanya's way. They found themselves in Israel, and so it was controlled by the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottoman Empire was, I guess, against they were fighting with the Russians, the Tsars, I don't know, whatever it was. He was in prison, and like many other people that were in prison and didn't make it out. And the Berditchever Rebbe, Levi Yitzchak Berditchev, after the release of the Alter Rebbe from prison, he says, "What zchut did you have that you actually got out alive? So many didn't." And he answers, the zchut of Eretz Yisrael and the people who dwell in it. And this was like shocking to Rav Techtel. Zchut of Eretz Yisrael. Whoever speaks about zchut of Eretz Yisrael veyoshveha. We heard of zchut avot, zchus avos, but zchut of Eretz Yisrael. So then he examined: is there such a thing as zchut avot? Did he make it up, or is it something that appears in Chumash? And he finds a pasuk to support what the Alter Rebbe says, and the pasuk is v'zacharti. Let's see if I can. I think I can say it up by her, but I don't want to make a mistake. V'zacharti et briti Yaakov, v'zacharti et briti Yitzchak, v'zacharti et briti Avraham, v'zacharti et Eretz Yisrael. No, I'm messing up, and I really want to hear it. V'zacharti. Where is it? It's probably in the P'tucha, probably in the preface to the book. No? No. No. And from there, it spiraled this whole entire gorgeous book, which became the Bible of how to approach the mitzvah. What? Is it? Where is it?
First introduction.
First, Hakdama Rishona. Hakdama Rishona.
Part of the book of facts written, and I will remember. I did it. So
Right. There. I found it, right. Good. So, וזכרתי את בריתי יעקב, ואף את בריתי יצחק, ואף את בריתי אברהם, אזכור והארץ אזכור. And the Mefarshim all, if I say something in Hebrew that you don't know, I need to translate, you have to stop me. So it's a pasuk in Vayikra. And I shall remember the covenant with Yaakov, and I will remember also the covenant with Yitzchak, and I will remember the covenant with Abraham, and the land I will remember. So the Mefarshim say, if you notice, if you're paying attention to how the pasuk is built, the pasuk is starting with Yaakov, moving to Yitzchak, moving to Abraham, and then mentioning the land last. Normally, and we're understanding that he's mentioning the avos as a zchut avot. When we're lacking in merit, we can rely on zchut avot. So the question is, the Mefarshim asked, how come we're starting with Yaakov, the smallest, the last of the avos, moving up to Yitzchak, we're moving up the guns, right? Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yitzchak to Abraham, and then ending with the land. The answer is, well, you start with the smallest because maybe you only need the zchut of the smallest, Yaakov. And if that's not enough, then you bring along with that the zchut of Yitzchak. And if that's not enough, you bring along with that Avram. But then the question is, but what's the land doing after all of them? Why is mentioning of the land of Eretz Yisrael mentioned in a pasuk that's talking about a zchut that can help us in the time of trouble? And so the Mefarshim themselves and the Midrashim and the Gemaras, they say, Ve'aretz isko, because when you don't have zchus avos, then the zchus of the land can stand for you. The zchut of the land, that the land has a zchut. In other words, the land in itself is holy land. And if we would only remember it, and we would cherish it, and we would honor it, and we would give it its place in Avodas Hashem, Avodas Kodesh, understanding that this is the Mokom of Beis HaMikdash. And if you don't have Eretz Yisrael, then you don't have Malchut Shamayim, you don't have Malchut Beit David, and you don't have Beit HaMikdash, then you have nothing. So you have to bring up the Zchut of Eretz Yisrael, which will bring about Malchut Shamayim and Malchut David and Beit HaMikdash, because it's all there. And this got him starting, wow, there's such a thing as Zchut Eretz Yisrael. And so he went into a whole scanning in the files of his mind of all of the Torah that he knew, incredible Torah, to bring him to all the conclusions that he does in the book. Then he says somewhere, and you who people tend to just quote their rebbes, and they take it, they get very emotional, but they're not learned. They're just kind of relying on parroting and what's in vogue to say. So if it's like in a community, in a certain community, to say, if it's fashionable to say fetz yoinim chaloinim, those, right? And if you don't speak like that, then there must be something wrong with your Yira Shamayim if you think otherwise. He says, don't argue me from that place. If you're going to argue against me, what I say in this book, it has to be an argument based in the base medrash. Bring me your quotes to counter my quotes. It has to be from a learned place. I'm not going for that. Everybody else. Who's everybody? What? Slogans. Thank you. Yes. And so he challenges us now. Who's the audience of this sefer? Probably most of them are the Haredim that have not taken up the stand. Okay, and from what he says, from how he says things, and the musar he gives about how to approach non-Shomer Shabbos people, we can understand that he's trying to build a consciousness in the minds of Haredim to say that is not the right approach of how to view our brothers who are Moser Nefesh for a mitzvah, even Shelo B'Kavanah, even if they're not doing it B'Shem HaTorah, because it's true, they were Mechal Shabbos, and they weren't keeping kosher, and they were bringing all kinds of foreign ideologies into the land. But hello, they're building the land. And then he brings a precedence, he brings out how historically, from the time of Ezra, after the Purim story, when it was time, the first Shivat Zion, to rebuild the Beit HaMikdash, the second Beit HaMikdash, it was in very much the same way as it seems to have been playing out now. Who are the people that accompanied Ezra that picked up the call, Yalla, let's go and rebuild Jerusalem? It wasn't the Talmidei Chachamim. It was people who had nothing to lose by leaving. It was people who were intermarried, who forgot about Shabbos, and how do we know this? It's in the Psukim. You open up the Nevi. It's in Ezra and Nehemiah. And Ezra accepted them, and they were the builders of Yerushalayim. And it's only after Yerushalayim was built that he say, Yalla, it's time to do tshuva. What's with your non-Jewish wives? What's with Shabbos? And so we see that there's a precedent for this mahalach, for this unfolding through the non-religious, that we come back to the land, and then we infuse the infrastructures that the non-religious believe in with ruchnius, with the Torah. Another thing that was in keeping with that historical period is that who gave the green light for the Jewish people to return to the land of Israel? It was a non-Jewish king, Koresh. And he says, I'm giving you permission, I'm giving you my blessing, I'm even giving you my resources. Go to Yerushalayim, fill up your wagons with everything you need. I'll give you everything you need, go back home. And he said, he says, that's also part of the tikkun, that the geula, unfolding of the geula, comes through the goyim, the permission of the goyim.
There's a belief that he was the son of Esther.
Yes. Okay. All right. Hashem has interesting ways. They all the yes, correct. But technically speaking, he's viewed as a goy and not as a Jew. And it's Daryavesh that was her son, and so he's down the line. Whatever. Cyrus. Okay. So so that's like the parallel is the UN resolution, starting with the Balfour Declaration, with the British Empire acknowledging the Jewish people's right to the land to come back, and then San Remo conference that the League of Nations, and that's what started it. It's the Goyim that started the thing. I mean, Herzl started it. This came on top of it. Yes, this came on top of it, and it was the anti-Semitism against Dreyfus that sparked the idea of the return of the Jewish people to the land. In Herzl's mind, Herzl was into assimilation, didn't give his sons a Brit, and his original suggestion for the final solution, for the solution of the Jewish problem, is mass conversion. They don't like us because we're Jews. Stop being Jews and they'll like you. And then when he observed what happened to Dreyfus, who was an assimilated Jew in the French army, if that can happen to him, who doesn't even know anything about Judaism, then anti-Semitism is here to stay. And the solution is to find a place of safety for the Jews, to separate the Jews from the non-Jews, let them give them a land of their own, let's have a territory of our own, so we can just be safe. And because of the growing nationalism of the time, I'm kind of veering because of you. You were a big troublemaker here. But it's okay, it's interesting history. Because of the growing nationalism, and nationalism is based on territory and culture and language, and so we have everything. We have the culture, we have a language, we have a common everything. We just we're displaced. We have a territory, we're just not in our territory. We just have to go back to our territory and we'll be normal. And that's what sparked the whole thing, the Zionist movement. But it was the Bereshut, it was the agreement of the Goyim that also got us to be able to, I mean, it's a mess. The UN is a mess, but it was the UN resolution to allow us to come back. And now the Rav Tachtel asked the question, why is it through the Goyim? Because the Goyim were the ones that destroyed the temple and kicked us out of our land. So the tikkun will happen through them also. Because Mashiach and the Gula is also for them. It's not just for us. So the way it got destroyed is the way it's going to be rebuilt. If it happened through the Goyim's hand as shlichim, then they have to be also as shlichim. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so let me see what else I can tell you by way of introduction, just to make up for lost time, for what you missed not being in the original course. So he says the building of the land is actually a siman geula, is the siman is the sign of the beginning of redemption. And he says the order is, first we have to do the hishtadlus to return to the land of Israel. The Jewish people have to show a readiness to come back to the land of Israel, to build it and to settle it, and only then, under all conditions, even through non-religious means, religious people, but the start of Jews coming back to the land, that's first and foremost, and then the tshuva will follow. And then Mashiach will come, and then Binyan Beis HaMikdash, just like it happened in Ezra. I wanted to say something, but then So this addresses the Haredi view, and we love Haredim, and they're part of the fabric. Every single Jew, according to whatever ideology they hold, are part of the story of the unfolding of Geula. Okay, but he's addressing this to saying, where do you even get the idea the first Mashiach has to come, and then you're going to come back to Israel? And he proves it source after source that that's not what the sources say. The sources clearly say that Shivat Zion and Kibbutz Galiot is first, and then all the other stuff will fall into place.
It's a shame the Haredim don't follow him.
Like I said, we're not here to criticize anybody. Okay. Okay. So Torah ve'Eretz Yisrael, he says, are both morasha, are both an inheritance in the psukim. I'm not going through the psukim with you. Just take my word for it, but you can buy the book or whatever. And okay, Torah and Eretz Yisrael in the psukim are called Yerusha. Only two things are called Yerusha, an inheritance for the Jewish people: the Torah and the land of Israel. And if it's an inheritance, it means we didn't receive it b'koach atzmeinu. We inherited it. Someone gave it to us. So that means it's ours no matter what, whether we acknowledge it or not. It's our inheritance, and therefore it's always going to be our inheritance. And so we can't claim it's ours because we conquered it or for any other reason. It's ours. And if you brought what Rabbi Sachs said before, I heard a shir from Rabbi Manis Friedman who explains this beautifully. The fight between the Ishmaelim and the Jews is one of inheritance. Ishmael believes that they're the rightful heirs to the land, and that's why you can't give peace for land. That's why it doesn't work, two-state solution, because they want, what do you give me a piece of what belongs to me? All of it belongs to me. Get off my land. And so we have to be very clear that it's ours. Because if that's the claim on their side, we have to listen to what they say, because whatever the enemy says about whatever they claim against us is exactly the counterclaim that we have to make. It's Mina Shemaim, set up that way. Yeah, Esther?
What they claim is that Hashem rejected us. And
Okay. Yeah, okay, whatever they say. Okay. No, they say that's the Christian claim. The Ishmaelim says that Ishmael was on the Akedah. Ishmael is the right Jew, is the correct, if you call them Israel. I mean, they're the rightful heirs of Avram Avinu and all the promises given to Avram Avinu. So then he spends a lot of time, the first chapter and second chapter. So he says, so why is it that that the land actually, if all of this in the sources, why is it the Chilonim are picking up the task of Kibbutz Galiot and Shivat Zion? So one thing he says is, first of all, it's a mitzvah taseh, to settle the land, when permission from heaven is given. And we see the sign that permission is given because the allowance from the Goyim was saying you can go back from the early 1700s. And the Vilna Gaon actually calls a certain 1740s, that's the Atchalta of the Geula. The beginning of the Geula actually is from the 1740s, and that's why he urged his followers to start studying the lands. It's time. Mina Shemaim. He picked up the sod, the vibe in Shemaim, the spirituality, the inner workings of things. It's time. It's starting now. It's time to go back. And the Ottoman Empire had no problem with us coming to the land, buying the land, settling the land. There was no opposition there. So, and what he says about mitzvah to say, any mitzvah to say in halacha, einat tzricha kavana. You don't need kavana for it. You have to do it. Is that interesting? Mitzvah to say einat tzricha kavana. It's a chazal. It's a halachic rule of things. Is it better to do it b'kavana? Obviously, it's better, but it doesn't disqualify. If you do a mitzvah without the intention of doing the mitzvah, it's still considered a mitzvah for the person who's doing it. Is it better to bring kavanah? Is it better to bring it to Torah? And yes, absolutely. Is it better to listen to divrei chachamim? Yes, but at a certain point, that's going to happen. And that's where the Chachamim and that's where the Charedim are going to come in, and they're going to bring what they can contribute. Because ultimately, the zchut of keeping the land, of being peaceful on the land, is b'zchut Torah. The Torah and Eretz Yisrael is a morasha. And so, Eretz Yisrael without the Torah is lacking. Torah without Eretz Yisrael is also lacking. When both are together, then it's chazak. And Baruch Hashem, I think we're living in a time where there's a big awakening and understanding that that's what's happening, what October 7th did to us and a lot of people. So there's a promise, he says, there's a promise that Hashem makes in Chumash. It's a pasuk in Devarim. Lo yidach mimenu nidach. There will not be any Jew forsaken and left out of the final Geula. Now, how are you going to wake up somebody who's assimilated, who gave up on their own Judaism? But if they're Jewish, there's a promise, lo yidach mimenu nidach. So an approach is, make him suffer for being Jewish, and he'll wake up to the fact that he's Jewish. The Goyim don't allow us to forget that we're Jewish. So all of the Gzerot is a chesed elyon and rachamim gedolim from Shamayim to waken up the hearts of the Jews. And we hear this, right? We hear, when I get on the WhatsApp, all kinds of these people who were so far are like, with tattoos and whatever, the thinking to intermarry, they're all of a sudden, they're doing this. Let me figure out what this Judaism, I'm going to hold on to my Judaism, yeah?
Connected to that, those words, to this Haaretz, Jerusalem Post, there's an article about Stephen Fry.
Yes, I heard it yesterday.
And
What's that?
Exactly what you
What
said.
did he say?
He is a assimilated Jew. He's not Jew. He didn't regard himself Jew.
Yeah.
And he woken up by anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
And he speaks so
Yeah.
Passionately.
so
strongly.
about, I'm proud
Yeah, to
Jew.
be Jewish.
We
Right.
should all touch.
Yeah, and what brought it out of them? The hate of the
Yes,
anti-Semites,
yeah.
is the goal. So
I
he's
was thinking exactly the same thing, and you said it.
they said this about the same thing about Russian Jews in the Soviet Union that knew nothing about their Judaism, but the tshuva movement amongst Russian Jews was the anti-Semitism. If they hate me for being a Jew and they still insist on that J or whatever they put on my passport as Jew, so if they hate me so much for this, let me find out at least why they're hating me. Let me learn about Judaism. Okay. So there's no peaceful existence in Gullus for the Jew that forgets that he's a Jew. It's always going to keep coming back to us, the Kol Dodi Dofek. And then he says about these so-called Rishaim that are building the land, that the Charedim call them Rishaim, we have to dan them l'chavschos. And remember, he comes from that place, but he made a whole big flip with this. Because he's opened up the sources. What does the Torah say? We have to dan l'chavschos. And what's the schos? They're tinok shenishba. They're like children who were held captive, that were prevented from learning Torah. So what are you going to blame them for not knowing about Shabbos and kosher? They grew up in families in the Haskalah movement, and
This was the tragedy of this generation, that the schools here mostly went Chiloni.
it's also this applies also to the Chalutzim that build the land coming from those places, and it applies to most non-religious Jews living on the land today. What chinuch are they getting? So from the Psukim we learn that first is Shivat Zion, Kibbutz Galuyot. And why is the troubles coming? This is another pasuk. Sion doresh ein la. Sion doresh ein la. Why are the Gzerot in the time of Galus come to the Jews? Because Sion is sitting forsaken, and no one is asking about her. No one is doresh ota. No one is seeking her out. Because Sion doresh ein la, so this causes the anti-Semitism, and caused the anti-Semitism that sparked the idea in Herzl's mind and in so many people's, like Jewish people's mind, then we gotta find a solution for this. And oh, we do have a land, and it's called Eretz Yisael. And when Uganda came on as a solution, let's go Uganda. Britain was willing to give Uganda to the Jewish people. It was voted out in the Zionist conference, and the Jews, even the Chiloni Jews, even the ones who were like not Reform Jews didn't like the Zionist movement because they were nicely settled in their lands in Germany. And they said, "What are you talking about Eretz Yisrael? You're going to raise up the idea of anti-Semitism. We finally got accepted to universities, and now you're going to stir trouble." So they took out any reference to Eretz Yisrael. They got rid of Aleinu from their Sidurim, and they said, "No, you're the danger. You Zionists, you're the danger." We know what happened in Germany.
Unfortunately, the same thing, sorry, it's completely out of.
Okay, self-control. I like that. Okay, after. Okay, so it's interesting that it's the two big groups that were opposing Zionism at that time in the early 1920s and 30s were the Reform Jews and the Haredim, each from their own vantage point. Now, there's another thing that says Be'ita Achishena, that Geula is going to happen either Be'ita or Achishena. It's a pasuk, right, in Yeshayahu, in its time or in a speeded up time. Achishena means before its time. So everybody so when he speaks about this, what's Achishena? The sources speak. When is it going to come out speedy before its time, in a miraculous way? This is according to Schus. If we have Zuchuyot, if we're nice good Jews, keeping Torah and mitzvahs, and we're doing everything for Hashem, and when we say V'techazena enenu b'shulchan Tzion, and we daven for Yishuv, we're not just paying lip service to it. We're really putting our heart and soul into it, and we're really wanting this very, very much. Then Hashem can bring the Geula about in a miraculous way. So everybody agrees that we missed that boat. That's not happening. Look around, and that's not the scenario. What's left is the Be'ita. So it means it's going to happen in its proper time. What's its proper time? There's this, 6,000 years of certain amount of existence for human history from creation, and after which the Shabbos of the world comes, every day of creation for a millennium. So there's a time. But there's the implication for Be'ita means it's according to Teva. It's going to unfold derech Teva. And Teva is slow. And he brings an example, like from the time of sowing a seed in the ground until the fruit, you see a fruit ripening on the tree. Ooh, there's a lot slow. It's slow. Until the process builds, what happens to the seed, and then sprouts, and then grows, and the trunks, and the leaves, and it takes time. And that's how the Geula is going to happen Be'ita. So when we get impatient, we say, no, it's happening according to Teva. Now it's a Seder. So the unfolding of the Geula is likened to that. And that's why one of the names of Mashiach is Tzemach, which means plant, because plants grow slowly with a certain Seder, certain process. And so the Geula also unfolds like this. And the Seder is, he goes back over and over again. First, we come back to the land, we plant ourselves on the land, we build the infrastructures in the land, and then Mashiach will come. And to answer the question, we daven for Mashiach and the Beis HaMikdash and coming back to the land so much throughout the millennium, and don't tell me that there weren't tzaddikim in every generation that said it with a full heart, that put their whole soul into it. It may have been lip service by a certain amount of people, but in every generation, but certainly there were tzaddikim in every generation that really felt the pain of galus and understood the implication of it. So why weren't they answered? And he offers a few different answers for this. The biggest one that made a rosham on me is that tefillah alone is not enough. tefillah has to be accompanied with action. When you daven to be a Talmid Chacham, if you never open up a book, you can't expect to be a Talmid Chacham. If you daven for the, returning to the land of Israel and the building of the Yishuv, but you do nothing to return to the land of Israel, hello, you're missing something there. So the reason of the Galus is because he quotes Hosea, the lengthening of the days of Galus. He quotes a pasuk in Hosea, "Ve'achar yeshuvu bnei Israel," ve'achar all the tzarot, yeshuvu bnei Israel, uvikshu et Hashem Elokehem, ve'et David malkam, ve'pachadu el Hashem, ve'el tuvo b'achrit hayamim. And he says, notice the order in the pasuk. Yeshuvu bnei Israel, the children of Israel will return to the land. Uvikshu et Hashem, and only then will they waken up to do tshuva to say, okay, Ol Malchut Shamayim, they're going to seek Malchus Shamayim. And only then will they say, once we waken up to Malchus Shamayim, then they're going to think of David HaMelech and Beis HaMikdash. And it's all from this pasuk, with many, many other pasukim. And because we don't seek Malchus Shamayim and Malchus Beis David and the Beis HaMikdash, so they elude it. We don't really put our heart into it. And all of these three things, I'm repeating myself, I know, but it's based on a pasuk, all depend on Eretz Yisrael, because there's another pasuk that speaks about the lengthening of the days because we're mo'es be'Eretz Yisrael. We don't seek Tzion Doresh Ein La. And because we don't regard it enough. And I speak to friends that still have friends in the States. I come from Canada. And they're horrified at how still even now that the Jewish people in America still feel like they're still quoting this Mashiach, and it's hard. And when we don't judge them, we don't judge Haredim, we don't judge them, we don't judge anybody. It's not easy. But it's the same arguments that they say. Also, he says in their schos, if they support Israel, it's considered that they're on the way to Eretz Yisrael. If you understand, they may not be there now, but as long as they're connected to the land, the schut of Eretz, like the Alter Rebbe said, it's the schut of the land, and Veyoshveya, and the ones who settle in the land, and for sure they are our partners in that. And then he quotes psukim that say that consider Chazara le'Eretz Yisrael, return to the land of Israel, is considered tshuva. Why is it considered tshuva? Because you don't have Beis HaMikdash and Malchus Shammai, Malchus Beis David, and Beis HaMikdash without Eretz Yisrael. That's the beginning point. You have to have the foundation. You have to have the land. You have to have this holy land. And it's our ishtadlus to return the kibbutz, the galiyot, that is the schut, that will then bring us to do tshuva. So it's the schut of just finding ourselves or supporting people who live here, whatever, like, the partnership of Chutz La'aretz in here, it's considered partnership on their way that will raise up the shukah, the yearning for Torah and mitzvahs. Another thing the last thing I'm going to say by way of Chazara is that there's a Gemara that speaks, an incredible Gemara that speaks about impure birds that come to impure birds that will be the ones that announce the beginning of Geula. Impure birds. Why is it an impure bird chosen to be the ones? It's based in Chulin, in a Gemara in Chulin. It's based in a pasuk in Zechariah. Zechariah, if anybody wants to look at it, it's chapter 10, verse 8. And all the Mefarshim about this say, who are these impure birds? It's the non-Shomer Shabbos Jews. It's the non-Shomer Shabbos Jews. Then he asks, why is it the non-Shomer Shabbos? It's Rav Tan. Why is it the non-Shomer Shabbos Jews? And he says, because first of all, it's Okay, we got complicated last week on this, right? Okay, let me see if I can say it succinctly. Everything to do with Mashiach, everything to do with the revealing of the soul of Mashiach in the world came from impure places, starting with Lot and his daughters. You know what I'm referring to? They got together, Lot and his daughters, and that was the seed, the kernel of what it ended up 500 years later, extracted in the person of Ruth, that became the mother of royalty. Lot and his daughters, Yehuda and Tamar, father and daughter-in-law,
Yeah,
which is also in the line of Mashiach, and impure sources. And then Moab, cruel people that were not allowed to get married, and the whole yichus lineage, the kashrus of the lineage of David HaMelech was called into question. Can we even accept you as part of our Jewish congregation altogether? That's a whole question. In his own family, David HaMelech was considered a mamzer because they didn't, whole story. He's a legitimate son of both his mother and his father. But his father didn't realize he was sleeping with his mother when he was sleeping with his mother. A whole story. He thought it was a shivcha. Crazy story until it was finally revealed that Shmuel Hanavi came and says, no, he's your son. Whoa. Evan Masua Bonim Haitala Rosh Bina, that Evan that was disregarded and rejected, it's the foundation stone of everything. And so, why is it like that? Why is everything to do with Mashiach and consequently anything a matter that will bring about the Geula, something that's connected to Geula is coming from that? Because if it would be allowed to come through kosher means, it would cancel out free choice because the neshama would be so bright, it would just attract us and we would not be enticed by any nonsense in this world. Because when you're faced with truth, you go for truth. Tahor olech letahor. Tahor davek betahor. So Mina Shamayim, there's a whole system, and Kabbalah speaks about it a lot, that to get to maintain free choice, that it should be from our place of free choice, hishtadlus, then the only way that Mashiach and Geula can come about is through unkosher means, because then it comes under the radar of all the persecuting angels that say, but they're not deserving of it. And you're canceling out free choice, and you're canceling out our force in the world, and you created us for something. We're there to build muscles. The Yetzer Hara, the Satan, is there to build muscles of ruchnius, to reject it. But unless it's there, so when the Satan, when the Mekatregim see that Mashiach is coming through unkosher means, it will allow it. Because now the light is dulled. And so if the same thing with the Geula, if it's coming about through non-kosher sources, through the kibbutzim of, bringing pigs into them, on Yom Kippur and everything like that, then say, okay, so it's not going to last, and we'll allow it. We'll allow the rebuilding of the land of Israel under such a way. It's bringing the whole Kedusha under the radar in a sneaky way. And once we're there, then it takes roots. Once the mitzvah is done, once we're the Yishuv Eretz Yisael, then it becomes the unfolding of everything else that's supposed to be unfolding will take its course. The hatchala is kasha, but once the hatchala is there, then there's going to be an awakening. That's biktsara. How did I do?
Right.
She was there from the beginning. And any questions, any comments? That took me an hour.
It's great. The Sefer, you would think after it was found, would have been widespread, and it was like a buried treasure.
It's a buried treasure, and he hid it, and he gave a tziva'ah. He gave told his daughters, like, if any one of you survives, make sure you find this manuscript and you publish it, and you make sure, and that will be like he found it as a tikkun for himself, and he wanted so much to give.
Was it published soon after the war, or much?
It was found. His daughter went and found it where he told her where he hid it, And yeah, some in the early 50s.
That brings
Now,
me-
the who picked this up as their Bible? Of course, the Haredi Dati Leumi, the Datiim Leumi picked it up. The Haredim, less so. But I believe there's trends, and there's a time for everything. One of the things that he explains in terms of the Chilonim is saying, like, another reason why it's the Chilonim that build it. It's like, who do you expect to know how to build the land? People who are in base medrash all the time? No, it's people who know to work the land, who have the physical fortitude to it. And so it's their schus. That's their contribution to the effort. Another reason he gives why it's le'at, him'ah, the gula, and a folding and bringing of the building of the land, it's le'at, because we're a lot of people, Kanei Nahara, Bezrat Hashem, many more. The kibbutz Galiot has just started, but there's still more that have to come back. The land has to be able to support all the people that are going to come back. Does it have room to support it? Yeah, but do the infrastructures have to be there to be able to receive them in a healthy way, in a prosperous way? And so, yes, so there's going to be one aliyah after another aliyah and another aliyah until it's ready to receive.
I believe that the Rambam in his
The Ramban or Rambam?
Rambam,
Yeah.
I'm reading now his the new, not so new autobiography by Professor, wasn't it? And in it, it says that in a mabor, how do you say mabor in English?
In an alley.
The preface.
Okay. Oh, Mavo. Preface.
To Mishneh Torah, he says, Torah bli avodah, it's not Torah.
Okay. Okay.
In order to formalize the Torah, one has to do avodah, and it goes together.
Okay, but okay, avodah, you have to understand what avodah is. It's not so, everyone has their own way.
Is maintaining life.
Maintaining life. Okay. Right. This connects to Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. Mashiach ben Yosef always precedes Mashiach ben David, and that's what was Yosef Atzadik doing in Mitzrayim? He built the infrastructure for the Jews to be able to live. He was an economist. He was a politician. He was someone who was out there.
Another thing is this that Mashiach comes from the impure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our enemies have the same sort of ideas. Their Mashiach, Jesus, Lavdi, came also from impure.
Impure. They say he was the son of God.
But the mother,
The virgin birth. It's like immaculate conception. He said she wasn't with a man. She was with God. It's like the purest of the pure. They reject.
the son of God. It's
Okay.
known that she was pregnant out of
Okay. Depends how from a Christian you are. They will quote that or won't quote that.
Muslims, the soldiers, I saw in the papers, when they went in, they said into each house in Gaza, there's a picture of Jerusalem and the mosque. So they have the same sort of
Passion.
But Netanyahu talks about sending them abroad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, it's a fight. It's not him. Okay, so I think maybe it's enough for today. Yeah. To add to this is kind of a little bit heavy. But now we're all up to speed. So
Thank you very much. It was very interesting.
Do you think if Balatanya, I think you said Balatanya, and had this conversation, or he was learning, like I was learning from him, that the Lubavitcher Rebbe didn't actually come here to live. I knew he could come.
Well,
because he couldn't
I
live.
mean, it's like, okay, maybe a Chabad person should answer this better, but he was a Bechina. It's so clear in my mind that he was a Moshe Rabbeinu of his generation, a Goel of his generation. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't allowed to come to, and And it's because if Moshe Rabbeinu would have been allowed to come to Eretz Yisrael, and he would have been the one to build the Beis Hamikdash, but to build the Beis Hamikdash, then the Beis Hamikdash wouldn't have been destroyed, and instead the people would have been destroyed.
But Moshe sent the people in.
And
Yeah.
the Lubavitcher Rebbe also sent people in.
And the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he said that the Lubavitcher Rebbe told the Jews not to establish themselves there, to extend their houses, or not to go on Aliyah.
Not everybody. There's a Kfar Chabad here. There's many shluchim here with the blood. I know Jews that the Rebbe said wait, don't go, and there's Jews that were told go. And he had his cheshbonot, the tzaddik. We don't question the tzaddik. But so like when it comes to tzaddikim, we don't know. Like we have to know that we don't know. They're functioning in a different other set of circumstances. But was he a supporter of Eretz Yisrael, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and don't give land for peace and kind of nonsense and Mesiris Nefesh on behalf of every Jew? And his heart was here, and he was always worried about every.
Army, they don't the army.
Oh, this okay.
Do.
There are the
There
do.
are.
Thank you so much.